Hello and welcome everyone. Today we're going to discuss the story Madam Rides the Bus. This story is written by Vallikkannan. So this is the story about a 8-year-old who is a very inquisitive child and she goes on a very different journey because of her curiosity. So let's see what the story is. There was a girl named Valli who was called Valli for short. She was 8 years old and very curious about things. So I'll teach you another synonym for the word curious. It means inquisitive. Inquisitive. Or another word is eager. She was very eager to know about things. Her favorite pastime was standing in the front door of her house, watching what was happening in the street outside. There were no playmates of her own age group on her street, and this was about all she had to do. So, here a question could come: what was Valli's favorite pastime? And because she did not have any children of her own age group, this was something that she had to do, but she enjoyed it. But for Valli, standing at the front door was every bit as enjoyable as any of the elaborate games other children played. Watching the street gave her many new, unusual experiences. So they could ask you a question: what was Valli's favorite pastime and why did she enjoy it? So let's see, what did she enjoy? The most fascinating thing of all was the bus that traveled between her village and the nearest town. So they could ask the question: what was the most fascinating thing to Valli? Another synonym of the word fascinating is captivating or interesting. It passed through her street each hour, once going to the town and once coming back. The sight of the bus, filled each time with a new set of passenger, was a source of unending joy for Valli. So, what was the source of unending joy to Valli? The sight of bus filled with new set of passengers each time. Day after day she watched the bus, and gradually a tiny wish crept into her head and grew there. She wanted to ride on that bus, even if just once. So that was her tiny wish. So what was her wish? To travel on that bus at least once. This wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire. So overwhelming means big, enormous, or immense desire. Valli would stare wistfully at the people. So, wistfully means regretting with a longing. Regret because she could not go, and longing means she is desiring to at least go on that bus once. At the people who got on or off the bus when it stopped at the street corner. Their faces would kindle at her longing. So, kindle means ignite, dreams, and hopes. If one of her friends happened to ride the bus and tried to describe the sights of the town to her, Valli would be too jealous to listen and would shout in English, "Proud, proud." Neither she nor her friends really understood the meaning of the word, but they used it often as a slang expression of disapproval. So they really didn't understand the meaning of the word proud, but they would use it if they wanted to show disapproval. So there was only one thing that Valli really wanted to experience, which was traveling on the bus. Over many days and months, Valli listened carefully to conversations between her neighbors and people who regularly use the bus. And she also asked a few discreet questions here and there. Discreet means careful, because she also wanted to know how it is to travel. This way, she picked up various small details about the bus journey. The town was 6 miles from the village and the fare was 30 paise one way, which is almost nothing at all, she heard one well dressed man say. So for a man, it was nothing. 30 paise was a very meager amount. But to Valli, who scarcely saw that much money, from one month to the next, seemed a fortune. Because she did not see that kind of money with her, she found that 30 paise to be a fortune, a large amount. The trip to the town took 45 minutes. On reaching town, if she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise, she could return home on the same bus. This meant that she could take the 1 o'clock afternoon bus, reach the town at 1:45 and be back home by about 2:45. So she was calculating about how she could manage this trip without her mother knowing. She wanted to know what was the distance, how long it would take, and how much it would cost her. On and on went her thoughts as she calculated and recalculated, planned and replanned. So she was planning this trip to go on this bus journey. Well, one fine spring day, the afternoon bus was just on the point of leaving the village and turning into the main highway when a small voice was heard shouting, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus!" And a tiny hand was raised commandingly. So finally, she was putting her dreams into action. The bus slowed down to a crawl, and the conductor, sticking his head out of the bus, said, "Hurry then, tell whoever it is to come quickly." So he never expected this small girl to actually travel. She said, "It's me," shouted Valli. "I'm the one who has to get on." But now the bus had come to a stop, and the conductor said, "Oh, really? You don't say so." "Yes, I simply have to go to town," said Valli, still standing outside the bus. "And here's my money." She showed him some coins. So she was eager to pay and get onto the bus. "Okay, okay, but first you must get on the bus," said the conductor, and he stretched out a hand to help her. "Never mind," she said. "I can get on by myself. You don't have to help me." So here she's showing that she is a big girl and she is independent and she does not need any help. The conductor was a jolly sort, means a fun loving person who was fond of joking. "Oh, please don't be angry with me, my fine madam," he said. "Here, have a seat right up there in front. Everybody, move aside, please. Make way for madam," he said. It was the slack time of the day. So, slack time of the day means a day when there is no much work. Usually, people use slack time in corporate offices where a job can be delayed without any negative impact. That is called slack time. Means you can delay that job by so many months, but कुछ negative effect नहीं आएगा. That's called a slack time. So here slack time of the day means it was not a busy time of the bus, and there were only 6 or 7 passengers on the bus. They were all looking at Valli and laughing with the conductor. Valli was overcome with shyness. Avoiding everyone's eye, she walked quickly to an empty seat and she sat down. So, since the conductor was a fun loving person, he said, "May we start now, madam?" The conductor asked, smiling. Then he blew his whistle twice and the bus moved forward with a roar. It was a new bus, its outside painted a gleaming white with some green stripes along the sides. Inside, the overhead bars shone like silver. So it was a very new bus. Directly in front of Wally, above the windshield, there was a beautiful clock. The seats were soft and luxurious. So here, Wally was fascinated by everything that she was seeing and she was keenly observing everything because this was her first time on a bus. Wally devoured everything with her eyes. So, devoured means consume something quickly or hungrily. So, we usually use this word when someone is really hungry and eating a lot very fast. That is devoured. But here it is written she devoured everything with her eyes, means she was consuming everything quickly because she was fascinated to see everything. But when she started to look outside, she found her view cut off by a canvas blind that covered the lower part of her window. So she stood up on the seat and peered over the blind. So, because she could not see properly, she stood up. The bus was now going along the bank of a canal. The road was very narrow. On one side there was the canal, and beyond it palm trees, grassland, distant mountain, and the blue sky. On the other side was a deep ditch, and then acres and acres of green fields, green as far as the eye could see. So here she's talking about everything that she could see. Oh, it was all so wonderful. So she was in her own dreamland enjoying everything. Suddenly she was startled by a voice. Startled means taken aback. Listen, child, said the voice. You shouldn't stand like that. Sit down. So somebody was showing concern to her because she was standing on a moving bus. Sitting down, she looked to see who had spoken. It was an elderly man who had honestly been concerned for her, but she was annoyed by his attention. There's nobody here who's a child, she said haughtily. So, haughtily means in an unfriendly way. I paid my 30 paise like everyone else. So, she's like, don't treat me like a child, treat me like a grown up because I have also paid the money. The conductor chimed in. Oh, sir, but this is a very grown up madam. Do you think a mere girl could pay her own fare and travel in the city all alone? So he's making fun and he's saying, no, she's a grown up. She's traveling all alone. She's paying her own money. Bully shot an angry glance at the conductor and said, I am not a madam. Please remember that. And you've not even given me my ticket. So he says, I'll remember, the conductor said, mimicking her tone. Everybody laughed and gradually Valli too joined in the laughter. The conductor punched her ticket and handed it to her. Just sit back and make yourself comfortable. Why should you stand when you're paid for a seat? Because I want to, she answered, standing up again. But if you stand up on the seat, you may fall and hurt yourself when the bus makes a sharp turn or hits a bump. That's why we want you to sit down, child. Again, she says, I'm not a child, I tell you. She said irritably, I'm 8 years old. So she did not want to be mollycoddled. So mollycoddled means she did not want to be pampered or she did not want to be overprotected by people. This word mollycoddled I actually heard when Dr. Sashi Tharoor had spoken in one of his interviews. Of course, how stupid of me, 8 years, my. The bus stopped, some new passengers got on, and the conductor got busy for a time. Afraid of losing her seat, Valli finally sat down because people were coming in. An elderly woman came and sat beside her. Are you all alone, dear? She asked Valli as the bus started again. So we know how elderly women are quite nosy and they want to know about every information about other people. So she started asking Valli questions. Valli found the woman absolutely repulsive. Repulsive means revolting or offensive. Such big holes she had in her earlobes and such ugly earrings in them, and she could smell the beetle nut the woman was chewing and see the beetle juice that was threatening to spill over her lips at any moment. Oh, who could be sociable with such a person? So she was having different experiences that she had never experienced before, and she was meeting new people. Yes, I'm traveling alone, she answered curtly. Curtly means rudely and quickly. And I have also got a ticket too. Yes, she's on her way to town, said the conductor with a 30 paise ticket. Oh, why don't you mind your own business, said Wali. But she laughed at the same time, and the conductor laughed too. But the old woman went on with her drivel. Drivel means with her nonsense questions. So actually, the old woman was very concerned or worried for the girl. So she asked questions like, is it proper for such a young person to travel alone? Do you know exactly where you're going in town? What's the street? What's the house number? So she says, you needn't bother about me. I can take care of myself, Valli said, turning her face towards the window and staring out. So here the question could come, why did Valli not want to talk to the woman who sat beside her? Because she found the woman extremely repulsive, and you can write this answer here. Another thing could come is, why did Vali feel irritated when people called her a child? Because she believed that she was fine on her own and she was independent. She was also quite fearless and believed that she could manage on her own. So here she's talking about how she had to sacrifice a lot of things to make this first journey of hers a reality. Let's see what she did. Her first journey, what careful, painstaking, elaborate plans she had to make for it. She had thriftily saved whatever stray coins came her way. Thriftily means ekdam kanjoosi karna, so being frugal, resisting every temptation to buy peppermint toys, balloons, and the like. So things like that. She had to resist every temptation. And finally, she had saved a total of 60 paise. How difficult it had been, particularly that day at the village fair, where she had resolutely stifled a strong desire to ride the merry-go-round. So, she had to purposefully, or she had to be extremely determined to suppress her desire to go on the merry-go-round. Stifle means to suppress it or control it. After she had enough money, the next problem was how to slip out of the house without her mother's knowledge, because she was not allowed to travel on her own. But she managed this without too much difficulty. Every day after lunch, her mother would nap from about 1 to 4 or so. Wali always used this hours for her excursions as she stood looking from the doorway of her house. Okay. So, how did Wali manage to slip out of the house without her mother's knowledge? She managed to do this without much difficulty because her mother slept after lunch from about 1 to 4, or sometimes even ventured out into the village. Today, the same hours could be used for her first excursion outside the village. So she never ventured outside the village. This was the first time. The bus rolled on now, cutting across a bare landscape, now rushing through a tiny hamlet. Hamlet means village. Or past an old wayside shop. Wayside means a shop that is situated on the edge of the road. Sometimes the bus seemed on the point of gobbling up another vehicle that was coming towards them, or a pedestrian crossing the road. So sometimes she felt that the bus was going at such speed that it would actually eat up another vehicle, or even it would hit the pedestrian who was crossing the road. But lo, somehow it passed on smoothly, leaving all obstacles safely behind. So she was very fascinated by the sights that she saw. Trees came running towards them, but then stopped as the bus reached them and simply stood there helpless for a moment by the side of the road before rushing away in the other direction. So, this she's seeing because of the movement of the bus. She's a girl of 8 years old who's very innocent, and she believes that the trees are rushing towards, and she does not understand that actually it is the movement of the bus. Suddenly, Wali clapped her hands with glee, glee means happiness. A young cow, tail high in the air, was running very fast right in the middle of the road, right in front of the bus. The bus slowed to a crawl, and the driver sounded the horn loudly again and again. But the more he honked, the more frightened the animal became, and the faster it galloped away right into the front of the bus. So this was a very angry cow that was going on the road. Somehow this was very funny to Valli. So Valli did not understand the seriousness of an angry cow and she found it fascinating. She laughed and laughed until there were tears in her eyes. Hey lady, haven't you laughed enough? Called the conductor. Better save some for tomorrow. At last the cow moved off the road and soon the bus came to a railroad crossing. So now again she is noticing for the first time that a train is going around a railway crossing. A speck of a train could be seen in the distance, growing bigger and bigger as he drew near. Then it rushed past the crossing gate with a tremendous roar and rattle, shaking the bus. So she was experiencing all this and she was having a great time. Then the bus went on and passed the train station. From there, it traversed means traveled a busy, well laid out shopping street and turning entered a wider thoroughfare. Such big, bright looking shops, what glistening display of clothes and other merchandise, such big crowds. She had come from a very small village, and all this was magnificent to her. Struck dumb with wonder, Wali gaped at everything. Gaped means her mouth is wide open. Then the bus stopped and everyone got off except Wali. Hey lady, said the conductor, aren't you ready to get off? This is as far as your 30 paise takes you. No, Wali said, I'm going back on the same bus. She took another 30 paise from her pocket and handed the coins to the conductor. Why? Is something the matter? No, nothing's the matter. I just felt like having a bus ride, that's all. Don't you want to have a look at the sights now that you are here? All by myself? Oh, I'll be much too afraid. So now, do you see the difference in her behavior? In the beginning, she was all too independent, very fearless. She did not want to be considered a child. But now she admits that she is too afraid. Greatly amused by the girl's way of speaking, the conductor said, but you weren't afraid to come in the bus? Nothing to be afraid about that, she answered. Well then, why not go to that stall over there and have something to drink? Nothing to be afraid about that either. Oh, no, no, I couldn't do that. Well then, let me bring you a cold drink. So he offered to help her and get her a cold drink. No, I don't have enough money. Just give me my ticket, that's all, she said. It'll be my treat and not cost you anything. So he says, I will treat you a soft drink. She said, no, 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 she said firmly, please, no. The conductor shrugged, so he let it go and then waited until it was time for the bus to begin the return journey. Again, there weren't many passengers because it was the afternoon time. Won't your mother be looking for you? The conductor asked when he gave the girl her ticket. No, 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 no one will be looking for me, she said. The bus started, and again there were the same wonderful sights. Wali wasn't bored in the slightest and greeted everything with the same excitement she felt the first time. But suddenly she saw a young cow lying dead by the roadside, just where it had been struck by some fast moving vehicle. She was enjoying her journey until now, but suddenly she saw this cow being killed. Isn't that the same cow that ran in front of the bus on the trip to town? She asked the conductor. The conductor nodded, and she was overcome with sadness. What had been a lovable, beautiful creature just a little while ago had now suddenly lost its charm and its life and looked so horrible, so frightening as it lay there, legs spread eagled, a fixed stare in its lifeless eyes, blood all over. The bus moved on. The memory of the dead cow haunted her, dampening her enthusiasm. So all her enthusiasm was now gone because she had seen a death right in front of her eyes. And now she no longer wanted to look outside the window. She sat thus glued to her seat until the bus reached her village at 3:40. She stood up and stretched herself. Then she turned to the conductor and said, "Well, sir, I hope to see you again." So Valli was a very naive girl of 8 years old who hadn't seen a lot in her life. But here in the bus ride, she was introduced to the mystery of life and death. And she saw the gap between knowing something and actually understanding it. "Okay, madam," he answered her, smiling. "Whenever you feel like a bus ride, come and join us, and don't forget to bring your bus fare," he said. She laughed and jumped down from the bus. Then away she went, running straight for home. When she entered her house, she found her mother awake and talking to one of Valli's aunts, the one from South Street. This aunt was a real chatterbox, never closing her mouth once she started talking. "And where have you been?" said her aunt when Valli came in. She spoke very casually, actually not expecting a reply. So Valli just smiled, and her mother and aunt went on with their conversation. "Yes, you are right," her mother said. "So many things in our midst and in the world outside. How can we possibly know about everything? And even when we do know about something, we often can't understand it completely, can we?" So this was a context actually which now Valli could totally relate to because she knew about a concept called death, but until she saw it, she did not understand it completely. "Oh, yes," breathed Valli. "What?" asked her mother. "What's that you say?" "Oh," said Valli, "I was just agreeing with what you said about things happening without our knowledge." "Just a chit of a girl she is," said her aunt. "And yet look how she pokes her nose into a conversation, just as though she were a grown lady." Valli smiled to herself. She didn't want them to understand her smile. But then, there wasn't much chance of that, was there? So, this was a beautiful story. Now, let's discuss the themes in the story. The first is curiosity in children. So, children are very curious, where they get fascinated by very small things and they would like to explore their curiosity. The second is children find joy in simple pleasures in life. Like in this story, Valli was fascinated and she found joy in very small things, like such as her surroundings, a, a cow running around on the road, and the new sights that she saw on her journey. Also, Valli, in order to satisfy her curiosity, became very independent and she saved money by controlling her desires to fulfill her fascination of the outside world. Also, this bus journey gave her a deep understanding of life, that life is unpredictable and there is mortality. At one point where a person could be full of life, the very next moment the person can face death. So, this experience changed her perception of life and it was a life changing experience for her. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, share this video among your friends, and also if you haven't subscribed, please do it right now. Thank you so much. God bless.